It's finally here, the Industrial Design Gundam G40. This is quite an interesting kit because, I mean, you probably would have seen all the very interesting articulation poses of the kit that's been shared by all the Japanese modelers. They already got a kit, way ahead of everybody else. And I will get to the articulation part very soon, but let's talk about the design differences. I think this kit, in terms of design, apart from the differences in color, I think it uses the G40 blue type of color, is more anime accurate. But in terms of the design language, the lines of the G40 itself, I would say that it's much smoother compared to the RX-70-2, which is a little bit bulkier and boxier. So yeah, I think some of you will probably sound off in the comment section down below of whether you love or hate the design. I don't think that this design is quite divisive among the Gundam and also gunpla fans, right? It is a very big difference in terms of the original design, but it still retains some design elements of the original RX-70-2. Now, for me, well, I would say that the design is quite okay. It is supposed to be an industrial design after all, but I think apart from the differences in colors, and I know a lot of you don't really like the chest and also the torso design, well, let me know in the comment section down below. First thing that we didn't notice was if you look at the articulation of the arms, right? And in terms of the arm articulation, which I'll get to very soon, the G40 in terms of head as well, the head movement can really tilt quite far back, just like a normal human. So I think the G40 really mimics the human movement very well. So I think that is one very good bonus. I can't wait to see how Ken Okuyama actually designed the movement for the head. How does the joint look like? It doesn't look like a ball joint, so that seems to be a bit different. Now, in terms of the arm movement, it can also move all the way straight up, for the RX-70-2 to hold the beam rifle towards the sky. But there's a very interesting gimmick that was not made known previously. So if you see that in terms of arm movement, there's actually quite a lot of different possibility opportunities. But when you actually push the arm all the way upwards, the shoulder armor actually has a small movement peg, kind of like a real grid, so you can actually move the peg for it to be allowing the arm to move towards the sky. So that is one very cool gimmick that was not made known to us until we saw this video. So this is actually one of the main reasons why you should get the G40. Articulation wise, movements and gimmicks, it's quite interesting. There's definitely a lot more movement and articulation compared to the old RX-78-2. Now, what really surprised me was the articulation in the legs for the G40. They've actually put in quite a lot of thought, and when I saw the video, I really thought that this is almost like a SHF figure quality. As you can see here, you can actually bend the knee all the way, so you can do the signature crouching or the kneeling pose, because the knee can really bend all the way. But there's also additional gimmick on the leg as well. So bottom half of the leg, you can really have a separate swivel, so you can have some very cool poses of him leaping off the ground or just crouching and firing his beam rifle. The other very cool gimmick was, the old RX-70-2, for you to able to move the leg all the way up, the skirting will have to actually move, right? So we know that for all the kids, but for the G40, the skirting do not actually move. It's a fixed piece. So what you actually need to do is, when you actually move the leg upwards, just like the old RX-2, as you can see, I'm going to demonstrate right now, the skirting in itself do not move because the joint system is actually right below the skirting, as you can see here. So no matter how you pose the RX-70-2 G40 version, whether it is a crouching or whether it's doing a kicking pose, the skirts, the lower skirt that's hiding all the joints and mechanism of the RX-70-2 G40 version will allow it to move independently. So you don't really need to adjust the skirting as how some of us really hate, especially for the high grade version. You typically tend to have the side skirting dropping off, when you're posing the leg. So that will help eliminate that issue for the side skirting, especially for the leg movement. I was quite surprised as into the level of detail of gimmick that's been built into the feet. So as you can see there, the toe actually can be extended, so you can actually push the toe up to support the level or the weight of the kit. In terms of possibility, the gimmicks that we built into the feet is quite intense. It's almost like a mini real grade, I would say, so definitely worth the money that this kit is asking for. Now let's talk about the weapons. Surprisingly, in terms of design for the weapons, there's also been a slight change in terms of the design. I think the beam rifle, as you can see it compared to the normal size, it is a little bit smaller, but in terms of detail, there seems to be a lot more detail going for the rifle. I think obviously for the G40 Gundam, because the scale of the kit itself is a little bit smaller, so the rifle also is a little bit smaller. But in terms of the movement, right, I always had this issue with the handle, that when you're trying to pose, the beam rifle does not seem naturally placed with the Gundam mobile suit itself. So this time around, the design of the handle for the beam rifle has changed. So when you actually place the beam rifle onto the G40 itself, I think it looks a lot more natural, just like the anime, and it doesn't seem too forced like how all the old RX-70-2 looks like, and also, to be very frank, all the other gunpla kits. Right now, this is what I think should be the standard for all the beam rifle design going forward for Bandai. The shield has also gone through a slight change, and it's actually a very good change. What I don't like about the change is, of course, I kind of miss the big yellow star, which is a separate part by itself. And of course, if you look at the eyelets on the shield as well, is a little bit more narrower compared to the original RX-70-2 design. The other difference is, if you look at the original shield, it is actually very square, very sharp edges, but compare that to the new RX-70-2 G40 version, it's actually a very clear concave for the new shield. And there's a reason for it, right? Because when they actually place the shield on the arm of the G40, the shield seems to place and look a lot more natural compared to the older shield, and that is something that I really appreciate. So the design of it has actually changed, and there's also a small lever to shift the movement of the shield, which they didn't show us, but when you place the shield on the arm itself of the G40, yeah, as you can see here, it looks really a lot more natural compared to the bulky, squarish look of the old shield. One cool new feature is there's a peg right now for you to actually put the shield on the backpack of the G40. So the old RX-2 high-grade version do not actually have this gimmick, so this is a very welcome gimmick for the G40. Looks kind of cool, right? As you can see here. And finally, what is different? Well, as we all know, all the Gundam mobile suit have the beam rifle sticking out at its back. The difference between that and the G40, well, the beam saber is still there, but as you can see, it's actually pointing downwards. So there's actually a very cool swivel mechanism for you to switch out the beam rifle at the backpack, which kind of makes sense because from the way that Ken Okuyama was designing this kit from an industrial perspective, it is all about clean lines. So having that beam saber protruding out from the backpack definitely looks kind of weird, and I think that's the reason why and how Ken Okuyama designed the G40 for, right? It is meant to be an industrial design look, a lot more simpler, leaner lines, nothing protruding or coming out of place. So that it is, right? In terms of the G40 kit, quite a lot of new gimmicks. It is a very pricey high-grade kit, no doubt about it, right? I'm not going to argue with you guys in terms of pricing, but if you have seen the amount of gimmicks and articulation that's been built into this kit, I would say that it's definitely well worth the asking price. For me, will I buy this? I think it's a definite yes. My only wish list is for Bandai to actually make this into a 1/100 scale kit. Master grade? Maybe, maybe not. Let's see how the reaction is like. But hopefully there will be a G40 version for the Zaku as well. Now, I will actually be quite keen to see Ken Okuyama's take on the Zaku if he ever gets a chance to rebuild the Zaku. My other question would be, will this G40 become the design for the Gundam action movie? I probably don't think so, because to be very frank, this design is very polarizing, and I think from all the fans' feedback so far, I would say that there's two camps, right? One camp really love it, it's very fresh, very new industrial design look, especially the head of the Gundam G40. But quite a lot of you really hate the design, especially the chest and the belly button exposed. It's not really a belly button, but it's actually a joint in itself in the torso. So sound off in the section down below, guys. I really want to hear from you guys if you're planning to spend your money on this expensive hybrid kit. And if not, tell me why not. If you're new to our channel, hey, please consider subscribing to our channel. Right? Thank you guys for watching and have a great weekend building Gunpla.